Hello students, I'm Mrs. Neha Bhargavi going to teach you Civics Chapter 3, the Union Legislature in the class 8. So let's go to the video. So Civics Chapter 3, the topic is the Union Legislature. So let's see the topic. So what are the learning objectives from this topic, children? The reasons why India chose a parliamentary form of government, and list the essential features of the parliamentary form of government and explain its role in debating a bill. So how the government remains accountable to the parliament. So let's start the topic. A small warm-up to you. Athenian democracy, the world's first known democracy, developed around the 5th century BCE in the Greek city-states of Athens. So it was a system of a direct democracy in which the male citizens of Athens directly participated in the law-making processes, elected and dismissed officials, and conducted trials. So India, unlike the ancient Athens, has an indirect or a representative democracy. So in a representative democracy, the citizens of a country elect the representatives to govern the state on their behalf. So do you think that if India had a system of a direct democracy, our government would have been more effective? So let's think about it. And the introduction of this chapter, the Union Legislature. The Union Legislature of India is not only the law-making body but the center of all democratic political processes. The Parliament is the central legislature, and the legislature of the state is known as the state legislature. So the Parliament of India is a bicameral, consists of the two houses, namely the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. That is, Rajya Sabha is called as a Council of States and the Lok Sabha is a House of the People. So, the union government, like the state governments, consists of three organs: the legislature and the executive and the judiciary. Okay, so there are three organs of in our state governments, that is the legislature, executive and the judiciary. Okay. So in this chapter we will look at the Union Legislature, also known as the Parliament, and the structure of the Union government. So the Union government has been structured as a three major divisions, that is the legislature, executive and judiciary. And the legislature, in the legislature part, there is a president and Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. I told you now. So our parliament has been divided into two houses, that is namely the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is called as the Council of States and Lok Sabha is the House of the People. And the executive consists of the president and the vice president, and then the prime minister and the council of ministers, and judiciary is the Supreme Court. So these are all the structure of the union government. And the next, parliamentary and the presidential forms of the government. Actually, there are two forms of governments, children. One is the parliamentary forms of government and then another one is the presidential form of government. So in a representative democracies, the two major systems of the governments are the parliamentary system and then the presidential system. So in our Indian country, in our India, we followed the parliamentary forms of government. But in the USA, they are following the presidential forms of government. Okay, so and the next one, in the parliamentary system, the head of the state, the president, in the case of India, is elected indirectly and the role they play is nominal, meaning they know real power. So actual power rests in the hands of the executive, which consists of the prime minister and the council of ministers. So the executive is chosen by the legislature and is answerable to it. So I'm going to show you a small video about this, children. Let's see the video.
legislative body of the country. Parliament of India consists of the President and the two houses, known as the Council of State, Rajya Sabha, and the House of the People, Lok Sabha. The drafting committee under P.R. Ambedkar recommended the parliamentary type of government on 26 January 1950. The Constitution of India came into force, and this Constituent Assembly became the provincial parliament of India. Passing of bills and making of laws are the main duties of both the houses of the parliament. The parliament deals with transport and communication, banking, railways, foreign affairs, defense, customs, excise duties, and others. The budget session in the parliament is one of the most important sessions because it decides the financial management policies of the country. Normally, 3 sessions of parliament are held in a year. Budget session from February to May, monsoon session, July to August, winter session from November to December.
So this is a video, for example, of the Union Legislature, I mean the Parliament. And let's go to the next topic. That is, in this system, each of the organs of the government is accountable to the other two organs, children. That is, the power of the executive is thus held in check by the legislature and the judiciary. So the legislature can, if needed, dissolve the executive, and in the presidential system, on the other hand, the executive is handled by the president, who is elected direct by the people. The president therefore has a great power. So the 3 organs of the government are completely independent of each other, and none of them can dissolve any of the 3 organs. So let's see one small video about those children. Watch it. So let's hope you all understand this video, and let's go to the next one. Is at the time of the independence, the formers of our constitution opted for a parliamentary system of government. So they felt that the parliamentary system would prevent the authoritarianism by ensuring that power is not vested in a single individual but in a council of ministers headed by the prime ministers, so which in turn is answerable to the legislature. So next one is the structure of the Union Legislature, children. So the legislature or the Parliament of India consists of the President of India, the Lok Sabha, and the Rajya Sabha. In our we just known about from our first slide. So this is the Parliament, and then that means it's indicated the President of India, and the next one is the Lok Sabha, and the third one is the Rajya Sabha. Okay. So let's see in detail about this. So the structure of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Okay, so actually the Rajya Sabha is an indirectly elected body and represents in the states of India. Okay, and in the members of the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies are directly elected by the people for the period of 5 years. So the Lok Sabha is the lower house of the parliament. So it is also known as the house of the people. And the Lok Sabha is elected for a period of 5 years unless dissolved earlier by the president on the advice of the Council of Ministers. But in the Rajya Sabha, also known as the Council of States, is the upper house of the parliament. See, children, Lok Sabha is the lower house of the parliament, and Rajya Sabha is also known as the upper house of the parliament. Okay, and the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, and unlike Lok Sabha, cannot be dissolved. But in the Lok Sabha is elected. Unless it is dissolved earlier by the president on the advice of the council of ministers, but in the Rajya Sabha it is a permanent house, so it cannot be dissolved, children. So another one small video about this Lok Sabha
and
and
Rajya Sabha.
yeah.
Lok Sabha is the house of people where people elect their representative by casting votes in direct elections, while Rajya Sabha is the council of states where the members are indirectly elected by the elected representatives of state assemblies. Lok Sabha is also known as the lower house of the Indian Parliament, and Rajya Sabha is referred as the upper house of the Indian Parliament. Lok Sabha has a collective strength of 552 elected members, and Rajya Sabha has a collective strength of only 250 elected members. The operations of Lok Sabha continues for period 5 years unless it is dissolved earlier, while Rajya Sabha is a permanent body or cannot be dissolved at any point of time. To become an elected member of Lok Sabha, the age of the contestant should be at least 25 years, but the minimum age to become an elected member of Rajya Sabha is 30 years. The term of an elected Lok Sabha member can be of maximum 5 years, while the term of an elected Rajya Sabha member can be of maximum 6 years. An elected member is assigned as Speaker who presides the sittings of the Lok Sabha. The Vice President of India becomes the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha and presides over the sittings. Lok Sabha has the power of introducing bills, introducing amendments, introducing budget, passing confidence motion, adjournment motion, and it can unmake government, while the power of Rajya Sabha include discuss clauses of bills, discuss amendments, discuss budget, special powers for states, but it cannot unmake government. That's all.
So, and another extra points of Lok Sabha, that is elections to the Lok Sabha. Let's see in detail. The members of the Lok Sabha are elected directly by the citizens of the country during the general elections, which are held by every 5 years. And all the citizens above the age of 18 years are eligible to vote, and the country is divided into the constituencies for the purpose of the elections. The constituencies are created on the basis of the population. So each constituency elects one candidate to be their representative in the parliament. So the candidate winning the greatest number of votes becomes the member of our parliament for that particular constituency. So one small video of the elections to the Lok Sabha. This is a formal method we are facing that in our local government. That is our every 5 years some elections are there, for the for electing our chief minister and the MLAs, like that. So this election has been conducted by the Election Commission of India, and the candidates were identified by the symbols and which were elected their representatives. So in these elections there are 20 lakh ballots boxes were used for the voting purpose, So that's all. And then the party which wins the absolute majority, more than half of the total number of seats in the parliament, is invited by the president to form the government. So if there is no absolute majority, two or more parties with a similar political objectives may come together to form a coalition government. So the other political parties form the opposition party, and the opposition regularly evaluates and challenges the actions of the government. Okay, and now we will see about the Rajya Sabha, that is the elections to the Rajya Sabha. The members of the Rajya Sabha are indirectly elected by an electoral college consisting of the elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states. So 1/3 of its members retire every 2 years. So a member who is elected for a full term remains in office for 6 years. So I'm going to show you a small video for about the elections to the Rajya Sabha. Once again, let's see about this.
Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is the upper house of the parliament. Membership is limited to 250 members. Members of Rajya Sabha are not elected by the people directly, but indirectly by the legislative assemblies of the various states. Every state is allotted a certain number of members, 12 of whom are chosen by the president for their expertise in specific fields of art, literature, science, and social services. Vice President is the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. The deputy chairman is elected by the members from among themselves. No member of Rajya Sabha can be under 30 years of age, and each member has a term of office lasting 6 years. But 1/3 of the members face re-election every 2 years. Rajya Sabha holds equal law-making power with the Lok Sabha, except in the area of finance, where the Lok Sabha can override the Rajya Sabha's vote.
So this is the elections and the selecting procedure of the Rajya Sabha, that is the MPs, that is a member of the parliament. So let's see about the composition of the Lok Sabha. So what is the composition of the Lok Sabha? Is the maximum strength of the Lok Sabha is 552 members. So, and then of these 530 members represent the states, and the 20 represents the union territories, and the 2 are members from the Anglo-Indian community nominated by the president. So overall in this 552, there is they are divided in this method, like 530 members represents the states, and the 20 represents the union territories, and the 2 are members from the Anglo-Indian community. Okay, so the 16th session of the Lok Sabha had 545 members. Okay, and let's see about the composition of the Rajya Sabha. That is, the maximum strength of the Rajya Sabha is 250 members, and out of this the 238 members represents the states, and the 2 union territories, and the 12 distinguished the citizens are nominated by the president. So what is the eligibility for the Lok Sabha members? To quality as a member of the Lok Sabha, a candidate must be a citizen of India, not less than 25 years of age, and registered election. But in the Rajya Sabha, what is the eligibility for the MPs? That means the qualifications to be a member of the Rajya Sabha, and the candidate must be at least 30 years of age. Okay, and who is the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha? Is a speaker. For the Lok Sabha, the presiding officer is a speaker, and in the Rajya Sabha, who is the presiding officer? Is a vice president. So let's see the difference between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha children. So the speaker is the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha, and the vice president. But in the Rajya Sabha, that means our parliament, the vice president of India is the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha. Okay, and this is some images for the voting and then voting is conducted by the secret ballot, and the people standing in the queue to cast their vote during the election. And for this is the image for the Lok Sabha elections and then Rajya Sabha elections. So electronic voting machines are used for this voting, and the ballot paper is used to give the preference to all the candidates. And then Lok Sabha is a temporary house dissolved every 5 years, and Rajya Sabha has a permanent house for 1/3 of the member gets retired every 2 years. So the people of India directly take part in these elections of the Lok Sabha, and in the Rajya Sabha only the members of the Legislative Assembly take part in the election of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so that's all the topics covered in this chapter, children. So let's recap of this chapter: the structure of the union government, parliamentary and the presidential forms of the government, and the structure of the union legislature, and the structure of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So these are all the topics covered in this chapter, and this is a part 1 of this chapter, children. So that's all. Thank you all.